Hello, beautiful humans. It's Ardith Goodwin here in the studio. Where do you get your ideas when you're painting? Like, seriously, where do you get your ideas? That question comes up in my world all the time. Like, how do you come up with these ideas, Ardith? And I used to joke around and say, well, I licked Play-Doh as a child, which I did. It was salty. I loved it. But honestly, I gave myself permission years ago to tap into my imagination in huge and big ways. And I don't lack for ideas and inspiration. But there are a couple of tips that I want to share with you, and then I want to introduce you to one of my new character sets that's going to be in this children's book project that I'm launching over the next 18 months. But there's 3 ways that we generate ideas and things. We do that by what we see. So when we observe our natural world, we pay attention to shapes and light and shadow and values and structure and all of those things, and it inspires us in some way. We also use our memory, so things that we remember, that we recall from past experiences, those have a plethora of data and information for us to choose from when we're thinking about what ideas we want to choose and tap into when we create. And then my favorite is using your imagination, because we get to just make things up. And it's such a grand way of existing and moving through the world that we can use our imaginations to tell stories and make things up just for the fun of it, to entertain. And that is one of the ways I love to create. But I also love to combine those in multiple ways. And that brings me to this guy. So I graduated in high school in the 80s, so I was a child in the 70s. And that aesthetic of the clothing and the hair, it made a big difference. And then, of course, I was raised by a family of professional clowns. And I used to be one. My clown name was Chubbas. That's a whole nother video, y'all. And I'll share it sometime. But all of those life experiences made an impact. And they planted little seeds of ideas and inspiration in my heart and head. And now, as an adult, I get to choose from those and bring them into the present day to entertain myself and then the children that I'm going to be writing this book for. So this character right here has a lot of influence based on my life experiences. So he is a retrotivator. Let me say that again. I call this group of people in my book the Retrotivators because for 2 reasons. They're great motivators and they're retro, which I love. I love the retro nature. And the contrast in this room is pretty bright. So if I put it forward, you can see there's actually a lot of contrast in this piece, but in the shapes and in the colors, the costumery. I am a huge lover of costumery. If you followed me for any length of time, you know that. So I am infusing many different elements of things that I love, that I'm fascinated by, and that I'm curious about into this subject matter, which would be figurative abstraction. And then I'm giving myself permission to use my imagination to create these crazy characters up. Retrotivators are people that I want to hang out with because they have a beautiful aesthetic of their clothing. They love fine clothing. Like one of my favorite shoes is John Fleevog. I'm going to give him a shout out. And then also Taft shoes. Love those 2 shoe manufacturers. Such creativity and just beautiful craftsmanship. I can imagine the Retrotivators totally like wearing some of those shoes. I may have to paint some feet and some shoes into it. But also too, in this world that I'm creating, it is important for me to have characters that want to support and contribute to the greater good. So the act of being a motivator to get things done in beautiful stylized ways has everything to do with the creativity around this type of character. I'm an acrylic painter, so this is primarily acrylic, but I'm also mixed media. And then I paint energy into what I see and do. So Ardithian energy is infused in just about everything that I paint. You can see my non-representational abstraction here. It's all about the energy. But then too, all of these spheres and orbs are going to play a huge role in the story arcs, the narrative that I'm building. So I just wanted to pop in here today and chat a few minutes. I would love to know, where do you get your ideas when you paint? How do you choose your subject matter? Are you somebody that struggles to come up with ideas? If so, I'm going to say pull up a chair and follow along, subscribe to my channel, because over the next 18 months, I'm going to be sharing a lot of information and insight of how to solve that problem in the painter's brain. Out of almost 8 billion people in the world, there's only one of you and one of me. And that means even though we have a lot in common, we have a lot of life experiences that were very different. And if we can learn to tap into those life experiences that were unique to us and bring subject matter ideas forward and maybe combine observation with memories, with imagination, you might find you don't lack for subject matter anymore. But it really does come from a place of saying your memories matter, your ideas matter, and your marks matter. Because you got to believe those three things first before you're willing to be brave and paint crazy, wild stuff like me. I'm going to cheer you on for it. Pull up a chair next time and I'll share more.